It's great to have you back, everyone. You're still watching the Morning Show here on Arise News.
Right. Earlier in the week, Nigerians woke up to very sad news about the Cameroonian managing director of Maersk Line, Gildas Tuhu, who was attacked at his residence in the Ikoyi area of Lagos on Sunday night.
Indeed. Well, reports allege his domestic workers planned the attack, which his wife was killed. They reportedly gained access to the house through an electrician who is currently in police custody. Both Tuhu and his deceased wife are expatriates living in the country. This development comes 1 year after Sunday, Annie, a Togolese cook, confessed to killing the chairman of Credit Switch Technology, Okpek Badamasi, at his Ikoyi residence in Lagos. Now, the Lagos State Police Command has arrested 2 men in connection with the murder of Mrs. Gildas Tuhu, a Hungarian citizen whose husband is a shipping magnate. Gildas was alleged to have been attacked with a knife and later died. It was further gathered that her husband was also attacked and presently battling to stay alive in an undisclosed hospital.
Following this recent domestic security, critics are beginning to ask questions concerning identity verifications and how it can be more effective in preventing breach of domestic security. Joining us now to discuss domestic security and identity verification is Esigie Aguele, the co-founder and CEO of VerifyMe Nigeria, a technology firm specializing in employment history, reporting and worker verification solutions for corporate entities. Hello, Esigie, can you hear me? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you for being here with us. Now, going off of this story about the death of the CEO of Maersk, now, VerifyMe, his wife, sorry. Now, this VerifyMe, your company, is basically digitizing trust. Now, how do we make it that we are effective when hiring, domestic staff and bringing them into our homes? How does VerifyMe verify this process?
Thank you for the question. First, I just want to say what a tragedy the Maersk event is. Sometimes bad things happen to terrible people, and our hearts go out to the family, and we're praying for the family as well. One of the things we try to do in VerifyMe is make sure domestic employers and also corporate employers are hiring workers, verifying their workers before they hire. Part of the reason we do this is that the act of preventing is very important. When somebody knows that you have their biometric identification and they can never run away or they will be caught when anything happens, it tends to curb their workplace behavior. You obviously can't curb it 100%, but what I would say, and we see this because we're experts in this field, people don't generally go and start off with murder. What happens is there have probably been incidents of crime along the way. One of the big problems I would say that we have is because a lot of domestic employers in Nigeria don't report workplace crimes, these individuals are able to go from home to home and continue creating havoc on people until it escalates possibly to this level. So the 2 things we say are, in terms of the solutions we provide, is we are digitizing trust by making it easy for everyone to check the national identity of any individual they want to hire using NIN. And we can also use the backup, which is BVN, if the person doesn't have a NIN. We encourage everybody to make sure that you hire people who have their national IDs. As you can see today in Nigeria, you cannot get a driver's license, a passport, and many services without your Nigerian national ID. So we're bringing that and making it easy for people to verify. You can do it from your mobile phone and from the comfort of your home, where you can see the picture and you can validate the biometrics. The second thing we really need is for the entire community of employers to join the movement of reporting. And you can also do it very easily on our website. Once you have an account and you have verified somebody, any incident can be reported so that you can save another family in the future.
From what I hear you say, employers do not report this incidents. And why is this so? And in a country where there is no, data gathering is still a huge challenge. and there's no single verifiable source. You talk about the national ID, driver's license, and every time you need to do a registration, you have to start all over again. It's as if these data are scattered. Nobody is harmonizing them. So how do you verify truly, I mean, the authenticity of this
Yes.
domestic staff and artisans?
Very good question. So I will say this. The Nigerian government over the last few years has done very well in collecting biometrics of Nigerians. NIMSI collects 442 biometrics to standard, to world standard. FRSC does the same. And they really have harmonized. So most people who have a BVN may not know it, but they potentially are already pre-registered for a NIN. And probably we work with FRSC as well. They actually quite advanced in digitizing as well. You now don't have to start all over again when you are going to get your driver's license as well. So these organizations are really trying trying to put their best foot forward in terms of e-government. We actually provide identity verification that is very secure. Our APIs are connected directly to government agencies that collect these biometrics to standard. So when we verify someone's biometrics and you get it, it's essentially the government who's collected it properly through a good system of processes saying that this is definitely who this person is and they cannot change their identity again. Now, to answer your question about reporting, it's very important that over the years, the decades, like you said, because there's been no good ecosystem for data reporting, I think that many Nigerians have become a little bit despondent in terms of, okay, this person has done something, they've run away, they're out of my hair, it's somebody else's problem because it's been just so tedious to report that. Now, and what I'm here to say today is it's no longer the case. The ecosystem is there, the repositories are there, and it is very easy for you to do. Biometric identification is here in Nigeria through your government agencies and BVN, and the reporting capability is there for you through VerifyMe Nigeria. And you can get to our website from www.verifyme.ng.
Okay, so I mean, you were talking about connecting with government APIs and the likes and things like that, and I shrugged a bit. Just hear this. The Economist said this recently. Just take Nigeria, for instance, which has 13 federal and 3 state identity schemes. 13 federal and 3 state identity schemes. The country's National Identity Management Commission, NIMSI, a body set up in 2007 with the purpose of issuing identity numbers and cards to Nigeria's 180 million people, have so far reached less than a fifth of the population. Why are your APIs working?
Yeah, so let's say this. Across NIMSI, FRSC, we probably have maybe about 60 million people that have been biometrically documented. So this is more than the population size of most countries. There are a lot of Nigerians that you can hire today and check their biometrics. And if you look at it, 3-4 years ago, we're talking 10 million people, right? So it's a huge, huge step, and everybody continues to improve. I think that as the government pushes policies where, in order to get, take part in social investment, social inclusion, financial inclusion, you have to have your national identity. These numbers are just only going to go up, and it's going to go from 60 to 80. I believe, for example, 80 million Nigerians have their passports, but you can't get your passport in Nigeria without a NIN anymore. So this NIN number, for example, is going to grow by another 20 million just in a very short time. And they're putting a lot of investment forward into scaling the number of people that have their NIN. It's going to happen. It's only a matter of time. You're right that there are limitations, but it's getting better, and there is definitely a lot to report and a lot to use today.
Okay, thank you so much, Esigie. Now, we're talking about tracking criminal records as a data point to verify people. Now, looking at this tragic case that we spoke about earlier, break it down for us. Now, this has happened and we want to report this. How do we go about it? How does VerifyMe take us from the beginning to the end point so that it's documented appropriately?
Mm-hmm. So I would say this type of incident, it's really, of course, the police. And, my heart once again just goes out to the family. And, I know people personally who know this family. So it's just been a very, tough 48 hours, for us. And this case definitely would go to the police immediately. What we're really interested in is that, and we're saying to you is that people don't just go to murder immediately. What we really need people to report is the gateway crimes, right? That all these workers commit, when they're working initially before they graduate to such serious incidents. And you definitely have to go to, police, DSS, whoever can be involved immediately. And so what we say now, to answer that question is, you have a worker that you've hired, maybe a cook. And by the way, this is the story of our founder, Tunji Oluwole, and that person does something terrible to you. In his case, he had been poisoned by his family, by his cook, he and his family, and they slept for 18 hours and they were robbed. At that time, there was no VerifyMe. But in this case, what you can do easily, first of all, because you verify that person and you have their national ID, is that you first of all just go to our website, you follow the process to basically report that an incident has happened, right? We have a system of processes that helps you curate and collect proper information. We also ask you information on police reports to make sure that everybody is protected in terms of privacy, and we can have vengeful reporting as well. So we definitely manage for that. But we just make it easy. We know that sometimes in Nigeria, especially in Lagos with the traffic and so many other things, if somebody steals, 5,000 naira from you, for example, right, and runs away, you might say, 5 hours in traffic or this or that to go out, it may not be so much. But this person is going to graduate to more and more and more crimes as they go along. Those types of incidents need to be reported so that you can protect another homeowner and another family.
Okay, Esigie, I would like to backtrack. So you have background check, verified check, trust, because you have seen this person. And in this unfortunate incident as well, the electrician was known to the family. And so he was giving access, from the reports we get, he was giving access to the house, and that's because they trust him. He's a familiar face. What is the most important thing people need not to do when bringing in domestic staff and artisans into their house? I'd like you to think about this because we will be heading for a short break real soon. I mean, it's very important because some of these domestic staff and artisans that we have around the homes, we are familiar with them, we trust them, but these things happen. Anyways, we'll go to break now. Great to have you back, everyone. You're still watching the Morning Show here on the Rise News, and we're still talking domestic security and identity verification. Esigie Aguele, the co-founder and CEO of VerifyMe Nigeria, a technology firm specializing in employment history reporting and worker verification solutions for corporates, is with us from our Abuja studios. Thank you so much for staying with us. So before that break, I asked you that question about having all these boxes checked, yet we still have this crime take place. For instance, in the case of Mr. Toho and his wife, it was a known face. It was the electrician they knew. So how do we curb this? How do you work around this situation?
So, to answer the question, every homeowner and, parents can only do the best they can. And there are three things I would say to every homeowner in domestic space, and it also works for corporate as well. Three questions you ask yourself. Did I check this individual's identification? Did I check this individual's work history or references? And did I do it in a secure way? And the third question, did I do it in a secure way, means, don't allow somebody to give you any piece of paper and tell you that that is an ID, because we have major IDs in Nigeria today. And the second one is when you apply the secure way to the reference check as well, is you really have to focus now on collecting work history information that's collected securely. We have so many incidents of workers putting in their references, and we've even had this incident. And really, because they're the ones writing the information on where they worked and who they worked for, and we know this in Nigeria, they can put any phone number of somebody who that they know that they haven't really worked for, and that person can give them a glowing reference. So one of the things about VerifyMe and using our solution is our system of processes is actually developed to prevent these types of people circumventing the system in this way. So we do not collect work history information from the person. When you put the information, we first of all verify the employer is valid, and then verify the person in that that position that they worked. So those are the three things really that you can do and I think that, for example, if you're hiring a nanny and you find that that nanny for the past 10 years has worked in places and has not had any incidents, your probability of having an incident in that workplace is minimal, right? Especially when you've done it securely. And so this is what we're trying to tell people is give yourself the best opportunity, give yourself the best solution by doing those three things. Do a proper ID verification check, do a proper work history check, and do it securely at verifyme.ng.
Okay, so let me talk to you about this. You can pass the ID verification check, the work history, blah, 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 all the checks, and the person still goes ahead to perpetrate a crime. And I'm saying this, and I'm speaking to domestic helps. I mean, like this is what I talked about very strongly. And I don't want to sound funny, but especially the ones from the West African coast, and you know what I'm talking about, which are in many homes today. Are you going to do a background check? Because in all of this, I've not had a background check. A background check, you actually go physically. If they say there's for some village somewhere in Benin Republic, you go to the village, you see the family, you touch base with them one-on-one. So I'm talking specifically about a background check. Is there provisions for that?
So we do have some provisions for that, actually, where if, we can reach that corporation or that employer in that country. But, for the most part, when you have domestic workers coming from African countries, they also have documents. So they have a residence visa in Nigeria, they have a work permit visa in Nigeria. And I've experienced this. I actually have seen domestic workers with this information. And if they have that, then they have also some work history in Nigeria, and that needs to be checked. But to answer your question, in neighboring countries, we can do minimal checks. It's obviously harder, and I would say this: there are millions of Nigerian domestic workers who are definitely looking for work as well.
I'm not saying minimal check. I'm saying detailed background check. You've touched base, you know their family, you've spoken to them, you've verified the information. And I know why I say this. You see, because all those screenings you talked about might not cut it. ID card, blah, 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 blah. They might not cut it. You might need to do a detailed background check to know the home in case something happens.
Mm-hmm. 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 And so that is true. So, and I think maybe, maybe I didn't say that. Our system of processes that we collect from employers, particularly in the domestic area, is detailed. So when we go back and somebody has been a nanny and we go to their previous employers, the series of questions we ask are geared towards, was the home safe, was the child safe, and did the person provide their job with quality? Those are the three, key points, because we also need to make sure we're not, going into any privacy, or overreaching in terms of getting information about the people. But we make sure that, as long as, they did their job diligently, they did it with quality, the children were safe, and the family was safe. Those are generally where our questions are centered around, and we build digital work history. We digitize that data, and it's continually updated and maintained for future reporting.
Okay, you've mentioned privacy. Let's talk about the protection of the back-end users. VerifyMe is handling a lot of sensitive data. What are your firewalls like? Do you have a robust cybersecurity system? How do I know that if I put all this information on VerifyMe, it's not going to be hacked into?
So the first thing is, before you can be an agent of the Nigerian Identity Management Commission, you have to be compliant with certain regulatory bodies, including Nigerian Information Technology Development Authority, NIDA, for data security. You have to be compliant with the Nigerian Data Protection Privacy Rights. And in addition, we are ISO 27001 compliant, which is Information Security Management Standards. So we have, very capable security, and we take very capable security measures to protect our data. And we do it in multiple ways. So it's cybersecurity, it's physical security, and it's also privacy protection to make sure that we're reporting properly as well, and not reporting erroneous information. So all of those things are part of our ecosystem of processes to make sure that we're protecting the data, protecting the people as well. And we take it very, very seriously, and we invest in it.
Yeah, okay, so I want to ask you, from the work you do, I mean, you must have a lot of data and experience. What is the most prominent issue you have come across when it comes to hiring domestic staff or artisans, if you do that? What are the telltale signs people need to look out for? I mean, it is good enough that we need to have these background checks and verify the people we are bringing into our homes. But beyond that, are there signs we would see from all that you have come across, from the people you have interacted with? What are the most prominent security breaches you have seen, and how widespread is this issue? For instance, we know that there's two whole family issues coming almost a year since the last killing, domestic killing we saw in Ikoyi, same area in Lagos. How prominent is this?
Yeah, well, I mean, one is too much, right? So it happens way too much because I think even the year before there was another incident as well. So, you know, the number that we've had is too much. To answer your question specifically, you know, if there was one thing I would, two things I would caution employers about, domestic employers, it's really child abuse. And it's something that we should definitely, it's not easy to talk about in Nigeria, but we did a campaign the other day on Twitter just to have people talk about some of the things that their domestic employees did to kids, and some of the kids were growing. And we were stunned at what happened on Twitter in terms of, you know, we thought that most of the complaints were going to be about crime. Most of the complaints were actually about child abuse, unfortunately. So, you know, and with that, you have to be vigilant, listen to your child, believe your child, and put cameras in your home. You know, I advise that, you know, to parents as well, if you can.
Thank you for talking to us about this, and we really feel very sad about the loss of that very beautiful life that was cut short, and we pray for the repose of that soul. We pray for the husband in the hospital for a speedy recovery. That's our show for you today. My name is VerifyMe.
I am Adesua Omoruan.
And I'm Shaiton Atigari. Thank you for watching. You can also follow us on the social media handles showing now on your screen. From our entire team here in Lagos, enjoy the rest of your morning and, of course, the rest of your day. Goodbye.